night anyway.
And it's a school
I can
night.
if you want.
Good evening and welcome to the Red Report, Barnsley FC's longest running podcast, and we are proud to be part of the TalkSport Fans Network. As always, assembled again, sponsored by the Gorber Table. Is it Poggy Road? I don't even know what road it is. Oh, Poggy Road.
Next to All My Cod fish and chips. Beautiful.
We've got one of them.
Luigi's pizza. So you start at one end, Gorber tap, few beers, chat with Jed, fantastic. Into Chippy, or other chippies are available, but other kebab shops are available. But you've got Luigi's at side as well. So all your delights are fulfilled.
This place,
if Margaret stood on corner, you can have everything.
This sounds a wonderful place. Where is this?
I can't tell you, mate. We don't want no foreigners moving in.
I'll bring me passport.
You have been listening to the Reds Report. We'll be back next week. As you heard him there with a message from his sponsor, Steve Andrews is with us yet again. He's not out for a meal this evening. No onion rings there. Reds Report Ian joins us as well, as always, because he makes sure that when he goes out for a meal, it's after the recording. Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Good evening, chaps. You've got me thinking now of a sponsor. We've got an All My Cod just around the corner, and it is very nice.
There you go, you see.
Yeah.
What will they sponsor a Barnsley FC podcast?
Yeah, he might go, ooh, but I'll give it a go.
Boys, we need to talk about the FA Cup because obviously that was the last that was the last match on Tuesday. I think fair to say, result aside, 3-0, good, decent, whatever you want to call it, first half. Good to see some of the fringe players either making a name for themselves or trying to force the issue with Neil Collins to give him more regular starts. The old cliche of a game of two halves definitely sprung to mind. I thought the first half, there seemed a bit of urgency. There seemed a bit of direction. I think McAtee looked lively. Without painting too dark of color, I think you do have to look at the opposition. It wasn't like a 90th team. But overall, Ian, job done. Off to Buxton we go.
Oxford?
Buxton.
Oh, sorry. Buxton.
It's a crouton from the Bachelor soup, but other cup of soup are available.
Yes, I think Colin said, didn't he? It was all about mentality. And they got the right mentality. Otherwise, it could have been a real banana skin. Game of two halves. I had a good nap in second half, but first half was all right. But it's going to happen, innit, when you're 3-0 up. The game's going to peter out, and we didn't let them back in it. So I thought I was pleased with some performances. I know it was good to see Shepherd back. I know he looked a little bit rusty at times, but I think with the balance of the side looked better with three centre halves in those three and push Williams out to right wing back. Even though I don't think he played particularly well, the balance looks better. McAtee, Bobon, Cadden had a good game. Great to see Connell back. They were the positives. There was a few other players who clearly are not in good form at all. Williams is one of them. But we negotiated it, and we didn't embarrass ourselves on national telly.
It was a little bit of a pressure cooker, wasn't it, Steve? Knowing what they'd done at the first place at ours, knowing the result of the derby match, important to, I don't know, is it to reinstall some faith with the fans? Because some of them are wavering a little bit after that derby performance and then 3-3 against Horsham at home. Some cracks starting to appear, or was there just a minor blip in the road?
No, there's cracks still there, to be honest. I got called from a pig to a dog on Twitter for daring to say when Barnsley FC invited me to a football match, as they do everybody through their website, and I put on supporters will turn up, but does that mean teams are going to turn up after the Friday debacle against Horsham? And I had one guy on that actually said, well, cup means nothing. Well, anybody who thinks that FA Cup means nothing, I'm sorry, but I don't rate you as a football supporter. So get that off my chest straight away.
Yes.
I just don't understand some people at all. Mentality, it baffles me. We were shocking that night, absolute disgrace. And I know you've already spoke of it because I listened to you. Nice show, by the way. Funnily enough, there was just a bit of something missing. I don't know what it were. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But anyway, let's not go. Let's not dwell.
I'm getting a word. I'm getting a word. I'm getting a word.
Tuesday night, yeah. First off, for me, like you said, decent performance against a ninth tier side, do you say? But still there, I think some of our players, one or two in particular, that's definitely that's their level, playing against a ninth tier side, because there's a couple there for me. How they are anywhere near our first team, it just beggars belief for me. I don't know how they're anywhere near Mount Football Club, to be honest. And second half, whether you want to call it Collins's influence, that there is none, or whether again the player slipped into look at me, I'm a first division player, who are you sort of thing mentality. There's certainly something not quite right at minute. And I'm not calling for Collins' head at all, but I think he needs to look at his tactics. I think he needs to look at being able to change a game and not just making like for like substitutions, because whatever he does, he never actually changes any sort of formation or anything. But some of them players need to take a long, hard look at themselves. Horsham, hats off to them. They sang, their supporters sang from first whistle to end. Absolutely amazing. Same as our own supporters. And second half, they could have quite easily got a goal, maybe even a couple. And they showed real commitment and real battle. And at the minute, that's what we're lacking.
Well said.
I said it before we started, Steve, that the romance of the cup is what's so brilliant about the FA Cup. And it's great when you're Barnsley and you're winning away at Liverpool and you're beating Chelsea at home on a Sunday afternoon. But when you're drawing 3-3 at home to Horsham, that romance it's not a good thing, is it? And I think
no.
I listen, I messaged both of you earlier before we started recording saying I don't want to dwell on Horsham too much. Credit to that club, the way the fans, they travel 500 on a Friday night. I think absolutely amazing. Like you say, they carry their team and they can hold their heads up high. And in a way, maybe even higher than some Barnsley players, because I think
definitely.
they just. But I asked for a talking point because there's no football at the weekend. So I'll come out with mine and let's just discuss it. If you don't agree, you don't agree. My talking point is a tweet, and it was a reaction to the last article that Ian posted on Twitter. So I'm not telling you who it's from, but it reads as follows. Football has been poor all season. If the opposition prevent the wing-backs getting crosses in, or the wing-backs are having another off day, there seems to be no change of plan and it's boring, which contributes to the flat atmosphere. Collins should be getting more from the squad. 2 points there, isn't there? There is that little bit of the football is poor, and there seems to be a big focus on those players on the wing. And when that's not working, nothing really seems to be working. As a reaction then on that piece, Steve, let's go first. I know some of this you just mentioned, but your thoughts on that then. Football has been poor all season. And if the opposition prevent our wing-backs, we haven't got a plan B. It's very boring, and Collins should be getting more from his squad. Agree, disagree, slightly agree?
Do you want me to be diplomatic or not?
No, it's all about opinions, and if people don't agree, it's fine, isn't it?
Has football been poor all season? Not all season. We have had some really bad games, but we've had a couple of decent performances. I think we are discovering now that the right wing back position it's a real anomaly, because 1 minute Cotter has a really good game and then he's shocking. Personally, I'm still yet to see O'Keefe have a good game. Don't rate him at all. Sorry, I just don't think he's up to League One standard. We put Williams at right wing back, and if that's the best we've got out of 3, then that's where money needs to be going in January for me. Left-hand side, I actually thought he might have started Dodgson on Tuesday night. Cadden had a semi-decent game, but I like the look of Dodgson as well. As for Collins, completely agree. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not slagging him off. I'm not going to call for his head or anything like that. But he does need to have some form of plan B or be able to change tactics somewhere, because as of, what we're in middle of November, I've not really seen him change a game by changing the formation or changing any sort of tactics. It's either one pass forward and then we'll pass it sideways for 5 minutes, then we'll pass it back, and then Kane will come and want ball and we'll give him ball and then he'll pass it back anyway, and then we'll run 20 yards forward and then we'll pass it 25 yards back. Or we're knocking long balls over to Devante Cole's head, or we're knocking them into corners, and we never play football like that. We've never played football like that. It's not our game. We always try to play through midfield. For me, Collins needs to change his tactics. He's got to look at right-hand side. But the prevalent thing for me is our midfield is shocking.
It's fair to say as well, Ian, for your reaction, which we said earlier, it's easy to say that we've got more points at this stage of the season as we did with Duff last season. But at the end of October, we started putting a run together. We went undefeated. He got the manager of the month. But it clicked. It took some time, August and October, to get there. But he found his best 11. Maybe not always a plan B, but those first 11 were able to, get the results for us. We haven't got that either. I know there's been injuries. The lack of plan B, it's coming up quite a bit. Your thoughts on that?
I concur a lot with what Steve said. First and foremost, I'm not wanting Collins out. Quite a few on social media are, but I'm not. I'd love the guy to succeed. But I kind of thought, right, we're in middle of November now. I was just like last season. New manager come in. It'll take a few months for it to settle down. See, a new manager has new ideas. But you could see in certain games last season, and it's easy to use last season as a yardstick because it's still in your memory. But you could see you could see what he was trying to do. He changed it to a 3-5-2, and it clicked. And then we went unbeaten, I think, in November and December, and it clicked. This year, now, I still don't. He's fascinated with this new thing of football, which is possession-based football, and. But that's all well and good, but you don't get anywhere. It's all right passing along you halfway down in your own half, but we're not hurting teams. And we've been spoiled, apart from sort of in recent years, apart from when Shop and Asbaghi were here, we've had managers who've come and played like a pressing style. I don't know, Big Val was a bit more direct, Val Ball, but the team worked bloody hard. And like what Duff said last year about sweat on the shirt, even under Stendhal, those players worked bloody hard, and we pressed from the front back, and we had a bit of identity. There is no identity in this side whatsoever. He's not getting the best out of some of these players. Granted, some of the better players have left. We know that. But there's still a lot of players who were here last season who absolutely run the nuts off. And this year, it's not happening, and he's not getting the best out of them. Williams has regressed. Phillips has regressed. Cadden's regressed defensively, certainly, to name a few. And I just, if I was to compare it, I'd use last season as a yardstick. We are now in the middle of November, and we've not laid a glove on any of the top 8 teams that we've played. It's all well and good beating your Cheltenhams, your Exeters, your Northamptons, who you should be beating, but we're not even getting close to laying a glove on any of these other sides. And he hasn't got a plan B. And like Steve puts perfectly, he can't change a game. Val would take 3 strikers off, put 3 strikers on, and it'd change the game. Or you change your formation. I just think it's just boring. And people have said, well, we've got more points than last season, but we were picking points up against that. We did the double over Sheffield Wednesday. We got something off Ipswich away. I know we didn't win them all, but we we were going toe to toe with these teams.
There was always something to build on, wasn't there? I felt
yeah, absolutely. And at the minute,
always something to build on.
You look at that performance at Derby against a poor Derby side who were form is in and out. We didn't even do anything, you know, and that's what's really worrying. That we saw probably both sides of a bit of that at Horsham in the second half. They kind of switched off a little bit. First half, yeah, they switched on and they did the job. But I'm just looking at him, and I think we're slipping towards mid-table mediocrity. I really do. If it carries on like this.
Well, that's that point bottomed out, and I think all of but it's good, isn't it? Because when there is no matches, we can talk about Horsham for the past 15 minutes, but it's gone, hasn't it? And with no football this week, I think it's good to have, and it's good to have a difference of opinion because that's what it's all about. And
shall we have my point then? Because
you
built it up this afternoon, saying we ought to have a really good talking point. So,
is it right? Can I just ask, knowing what you like, is it football related, Steve?
You never said it had to be football related.
Is it over 18 only?
Obviously.
Right, Steve, your set piece.
So I've got girls allowed on one hand and pussycat dolls on the other hand. No, obviously not.
Pussycat dolls.
Actually, following on from what we're talking about, my talking point is this. I look at some of our players and shake my head. We've paid a lot of money out for one in particular. We've got another couple there. One's an international who didn't play. He's not playing at minute, although they were losing 2-1 when I had a look 10 minutes since. You've got another one that, I'm not being funny, he couldn't pass a ball Tuesday night. He were absolutely garbage, but he's been garbage all season. And then I look at Fabio Jello. I look at Yanganathan, who came on, who was excellent, absolutely excellent. I look at the young lad, and I can't remember his name for life of me, who played against Man City, and he came on and played right back. I think he's a Welsh under-21 young lad who looked really outstanding. We've got a couple of other young midfielders, Neyman, Chapman, that are sort of chomping on bit. And my talking point is this: if they're good enough, they're old enough.
Absolutely.
And at the minute, for me, the guys that have those midfield positions could quite easily be pushed aside by these youngsters, and let's at least have some sweat on the shirt, if you want to put it like that, and let's get these youngsters, give them a chance. And I know people are saying, oh no, you don't want to rush them and all this. You know what? We need something. We need something now to give them a kick up arse. And your likes of Kane and Phillips, Russell, they're too comfortable, and you can see they're too comfortable. They're just swanning about, and that's, you know, it's sad to see players who are supposed to be professionals conducting themselves in the way that they are. It's a disgrace, to be quite honest. And for me, let's get these young'uns, give them a kick up arse, because I'd rather watch a game that has battle and fight in it and lose. All right, we might lose, fair enough. But if we've seen a game and we've seen somebody put 100% in, I'd take that. I'd take that every other week.
Steve, Ian, go on. You go first.
Yeah, I can't argue against it. We have got a really good conveyor belt of talent that's coming through at all levels at the club, and we have done for some time. And yes, you wouldn't blood them all at once, and you've got to be careful in that respect. But they could teach a few what it's like to put that shirt on and play. The young lad who came on the other night did more in first 20 seconds than some had done for 60 minutes. Fearless. Look at Jallo. Look at what he did against Horsham in that first game. You know, I'm not saying he would have changed the game at Derby, but give the opposition something to think about, and he does. And I just think that you could really let's start seeing him on the bench. Let's start blooding them. Let's not just keep them for EFL trophy. And like say, Steve spot on, there's too many that are too comfortable. Russell, Phillips, Kane I do think Kane does try, but I think sometimes he's not quite up to it, but he does try. But Phillips offers nothing. Russell offers very little. There's 2 shirts straight away going for somebody who could really, who could take the opportunity.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I've said before when we've discussed this that I'm all for it, but I think League One is it's a hard league to prepare for almost. There's no denying, there is absolutely no denying that an Aidan Marsh would give you 100%. And if you look at the Horsham match, it came on fantastic. But then you have to say as well, you are playing a 9th tier opposition team. So maybe. However, I think they should be in and around the squad. I think they should be on the bench. The problem is then, do you bring Aidan Marsh on at Derby when you're losing 2 or 3-0? And you know what I mean? I think the balance is really hard. My worry is also, knowing the club that we are, that you put Jallow in, he has a few fantastic performances, and he's flipping gone in January. And because of his age, it's a tribunal that sets a fee and blah, blah, blah. And it's a little bit like, John Stones didn't play that many matches for us, did he? He didn't have like 3 seasons all really good. He came to the rise, spotted Everton, off he went. I get using him for the cups. I get, and if I was the manager, I'd make the first team come and watch him to say, look, that's what it's about. I think you can do a lot of damage as well if you put him up. The Derby match, for instance, if you put Marshy up against a 6'4" defender that's built like a brick wall, and I don't want to dent the confidence either. You know what I mean? If I had to put my head on the block, I'd say at least one of these should play maybe 10, 15 minutes every match. And even if you put that on you rotate that or whatever, because I think when you are down, the lot that came on. I think Marsh did all right. Don't get me wrong. I have a bit of a worry because he went out on loan and he didn't score there. So I have a bit of a worry. The younger Nathan lad, I think he's the future. I think he's Jallow. He's probably the one that I say he would be maybe my one to say, you know what? If Watters is not doing it, and if Cosgrove is not doing it, maybe drop them all together for a match. I say to Jallow, you know what? That's yours. That's yours. Because I suppose I get what Steve says. If they're good enough, they're old enough. And, I've always liked the loan system. Play man's football in the lower league. Get used to, the tactics, the dark arts and everything else. And then they come back to us almost a bit like semi-seasoned professionals. They've had that season or half a season. I think Jallow is ready. I think he's an extraordinary talent and he could be the next big thing for Barnsley FC. I like Marshy. I don't know. I think League One might be a step too far for him. And I think that younger Nathan is the next one. So I think they should be involved more. And maybe not just when things are not going well. Maybe you should, start Jallow and take him up at half time and then say to Watters, you see what he's done. Now you go and get it.
I'll throw something in here then.
Yeah.
Watters gets called from a pig to a dog. Cosgrove, similar, because that's where that's going to go. You can put Jallow in. You could put Cristiano Ronaldo up front for us.
Service.
But when you've got 3 donkeys in midfield that can't play a through ball, it doesn't matter who you've got up there at all.
That's
because
true.
there's no quality service. I don't care what anybody says. You know where I am on Twitter. Do what you want. Couldn't care less. There is no quality service to our strikers, and we've had this problem. We had this problem with Woodrow and Morris. Woodrow got slagged off everywhere. What's he doing on left wing? What's he doing on right wing? Why is he dropping back? Why is he doing this? Why ain't he in box? He was never in box because he was trying to get hold at bleeding ball. That's what he were doing.
Yep.
Because again, midfield is not doing what it's supposed to do. 1.2 million for Kane. What's he done in 3 years, 4 years he's been with us? Apart from a few decent games. I'm sorry. That's my bugbear. Midfield at minute is doing nothing and it's pulling the rest of the team down.
And I'll wholeheartedly agree. And that's why I think in my head, it's not a... He is capable, is he? Because Kane last season, we raved about him, didn't he? Because he was the midfield maestro.
There's a player. There is a player in Kane, definitely.
So
but it's not. It's just to it and miss. Just to it and miss. Josh Benson, same.
Well, yeah, but should we then look at either instructions or motivation from the sideline?
No,
And
we
you can
should
have
look
a
at
debate.
getting shut of players like Phillips, who have done nothing all season, and all right, weighed in with a few goals last season. Who signed him? Why did we sign him from Burnley? Because for me, this season, we've been playing with 10 men. And you can't tell me you wouldn't rather have a Neyman or a Chapman. I mean, all right, Connell's coming back. Personally, I would have taken Connell off at half time on Tuesday because he looked as though he were absolutely knackered, lad. He really put it in that first half. And luckily, he's coming back. But they're just not playing. They're not playing for shirt. For me, they're stealing money, and they're stealing money off supporters who are paying hard cash to watch dross, to be honest. At times.
Where is that fault? Where do we pinpoint? Is that man management? Is that poor motivation? Is that something behind the scenes that we're unaware of? That because something doesn't seem to be there. Anyway, that's for next week. Ian, your point.
Yeah. I want to argue about it now. Argue it now.
I think, to be honest, it's a bit of everything. And I think it's attitude of players. I think when you've had Jordan Williams come out in the summer and talk about wanting to play at the highest level, including the Premier League, because he's seen some of his ex-colleagues now playing in the Premier League or high up in the Championship. He thinks, well, I can do it. I'm sorry, Jordan, but your performances have gone backwards. You shouldn't be starting. So some of it is the players need to look at themselves, because the performances have not been good enough. And Steve's mentioned the main culprits. I think a lot of it is we haven't got the players to play this possession-based football because we haven't got somebody who can open up a defence with a defence splitting pass. Our threat to the strikers, our service to the strikers comes from Cadden whipping those balls in on the left-hand side. That's where it comes from. And that is the only place it comes from because Williams isn't doing it on the right-hand side. So that's where do you not revert back to where we've been successful over the last few seasons in pressing and being, I don't mean long ball, hoof ball, but being a bit more direct. Phillips looked a better player last season when he was doing those runs and hanging on the edge of the area. Not this drop back, get the ball, knock it about. He's not that type of player. He looked better when you give him a bit of a ball to chase onto and run at somebody. And I just think the style of play needs to change, and that's going to come from the manager. Yeah. I think the players need to look at themselves because some of them have been woefully off form. Now, whether what's happened, whether they've still peed off with the best players going in the summer, change a manager, whether it's just really not stuffing out of them and they've not got the move that they wanted and they want out, I really don't know. But it's a collective, and I think they need to change the style of play. We need to go back to what we're good at, which is hard to beat, working hard, and get up the pitch a bit quicker. And I don't mean long ball; I just mean move it faster. It's too slow, and we haven't got the players.
So do you keep wing backs then, Ian? Do we keep wing backs and play 5 or 3 and 2 wide, or do we go back to 4-4-2?
The trouble is, the only threat comes from the wing backs, really, doesn't it? Or one of the wing backs at the minute. So,
do you play with wingers? Do you play with proper wingers?
So I'm tempted, to be honest. I've been tempted for a bit to stick Cadden on left wing because he's not as good at getting back. He's sometimes too slow to get back because he's high up the pitch. And I would say to him, you hog that touchline. You take that fullback on because you can beat a man and you can whip a ball in. Don't worry about the defensive side too much. Yeah, come back and help your fullback. But we'll have a proper fullback in there who knows how to defend. Yeah. And I think would be tougher to beat. I mean, there was a stat what ITV come out with joint top scorers in League One, but it don't feel like it. No. You know, but I would
winning 7-0 in the first match of the season goes a long way.
I know that helps massively, doesn't it? But I just think maybe you do change it and make us a bit more tough to beat. Connell in there as a holding midfielder, and whether it's a 4-4-2 with a diamond or flat 4 across the middle, I don't know. But I'd probably use Cadden more as a threat as a winger, and maybe put Williams as a right back, and then put somebody decent on the right hand side who can do some direct. Like we used to have a Jacob Brown on that side, or I mean, we missed like a Luke Thomas. I know he was injury prone, but he could thread a ball through. He, at least on his day, could give some service. We haven't got that type of player who maybe a number 10 or somebody who just is a high up in the midfield, just behind the front two, who can be the link between the midfield and the striker. We haven't got that player.
That brings us to the next point and the last point. Then Ian, surprises.
Well, I think we've probably talked it all to death, to be honest. But
girls allowed. I go for girls allowed.
I mean, here, yeah, girls allowed. Yeah. Nadine, the Irish one, every day of the week.
Oh no, Ginger. I can't remember the name of Ginger one. What was Ginger one called?
The Scouse one.
Was she? Yeah, I was never a Cheryl Tweedy fan. I'm sorry, no, I weren't.
No.
I'm going for shirt swinger. That's mine.
Shirt swinger.
Oh, aim for top, Carlo, mate. Aim for top. Go for it.
Up there, and I'll land about there.
Sorry, go on, mate.
No, well, I was going to go on about, I suppose, like Collins and no plan B and stuff, but we probably discussed that. I would probably say, right, well, give us 3 players then who you would hook out of that team. Now, I'd go Jordan Williams, and I'd take the armband off him. Because I thought Shepherd looked better when he come in.
And don't forget, you've got Lapata waiting.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back. Yeah, I think it's quite easy to whip 3 out. I mean, you could whip quite a lot out if I'm honest. But I'd say Williams, Phillips, and Russell above Cosgrove, who I don't think has done anything, and he's woefully off confidence. But I think them 3 for me, and whip it up a bit, and it might make a few look and go, oh, I'm not guaranteed a spot here, because they could put in 4 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, but they're still going to play every week, aren't they, some of these players? You know that we're going to have a good starting 6 or 7 who are going to play every week, regardless of whether they've had a shocker or whether they scored a hat-trick. So they're the 3 for me that I would relegate to the bench for a start. So which 3 players would you hike?
For me, it's the same 3. And because you picked those 3, I'd include Benson as well, because I just don't see. I know he was very unlucky.
I think his time's done here. I don't think he's.
Yeah. I think it came with a lot of promise.
Yeah.
Was he a replacement? Was it for Hurahan? No, not Hurahan left. Was it? Who was it?
No, it was Mowat. Was it? Was it Mowat?
Mowat left. He came in
because he come with a big reputation playing for Burnley, didn't he?
He did, and it's just. I know he was unlucky because Lee came on and got injured very quickly, which is not his fault. I just haven't seen that light at the end of the tunnel. I've not seen. You can talk about last season against Doncaster in one of the cups that he scored a couple of goals. Great. EFL Cup youngsters. Him as well, because I think it's just, you go back to the previous point, but he has taken a place up on the bench where a Neyman could be sitting, where when he's fit, and Matty Wolf could be sitting. And I know it might be different positions, but some of these youngsters are being kept out by these players that are just not doing it.
Yeah.
I agree with Williams. We haven't talked about it. We've talked about playing, I think, as a leader. And that's not his fault because he was given the armband. I don't know why. And I don't need to know why.
Why was Connell not captain on?
I don't know if there was already signs of sickness or whatever. He is the longest serving player. That doesn't mean anything, does it?
No.
Carson is the longest serving player at flipping Man City, but he's not got the arm. You know what I mean? So
he's your age as well, isn't he, mate?
He's more yours.
40. I think he's older than that, mate.
But no, I would Benson as well, and that would create, I think, some of the space and opportunities for some of these youngsters. So no, wholeheartedly agree. And I'll throw in there, with January around the corner, last season, the January loans came in and really, really strengthened what Duff had already built. We need to have the best January for me to try
What type of January do you have when you see CEO's leaving and got his mind on America? Or is that not an influence? I don't know.
It means Josh Martin's coming back, which means I'm burning my season ticket. That's what it means.
He's signed for Portsmouth, hasn't he?
Has he?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
This weekend.
Oh, thank God for that.
He signed for Portsmouth, so he'll not come back.
I can sleep easier at night now then.
But Bobby Thomas came in January, and Lopata will be like a new player when he comes back, because he was for me the star of the early of the season. But Steve, which 3 players for you?
But you know what? I'm in a similar vein as all of us are. You could oik out more than 3 quite easily. I know I go on about it every week, but I'm sorry. He's just there's not even a footballer in there. I don't think there is. Watching him, watching his body language, Phillips won't even make bench for me. I think we've got youngsters there that's chomping at bit that would walk all over him to get a place in that Barnsley side. You could take Russell out. You could drop Kane to bench. They're just not feeding strikers, which is making strikers look poor. But it's happened before. So I think that's prime area. But yeah, Williams, that captaincy's got to go. He's whether he becomes the player he was, and he weren't bloody brilliant then, really. But if he can go back to being the player he was without the captain's armband, I'd take that, because we need something on that right wing back side. We really do. Do you give Connell captaincy? Is he ready? Is he fit enough? Dejivne at minute is really one of the standout players. Do you give him captaincy?
Can I just say though, Steve, when people saying, but Collins is not playing with Kitchen and Anderson, I dare say, but I think both Lopata and Dejivne potentially could be that good. So it might be early on, but it's not like we've got two defenders that we brought in, because they are extremely good and probably championship quality, whatever. So to me, it comes down again to okay, Lopata's injured, but it's the management again, and it's midfield, isn't it? Well, last year we had a plethora, whatever it's called, of midfield, and you could take one out, put one in, and it just worked.
But this is the thing again. This is the $6 million question. It's the same midfield as last season, and that midfield was class last season. It was one of the best midfields in the league, and it made us tick. Williams, yes, he's never been the greatest defensively, but he were very good offensively last season, and he bombed forward, and he was like a right winger, and he did make a lot of assists, and we praised him on this podcast. He's a shadow of himself as well. Why is that? Is that the players who've took the foot off the ball? Is it the manager not getting the best out of them? Because the previous manager got a hell of a lot more out of these players, and it's the same.
Thing is, though,
you can moan about if you haven't got Anderson, but the crux of that side is still pretty much the side now, and those older heads, so to speak, are the ones who are not performing.
Yeah, the ones you look up to.
Is that? Are you gonna lay this at? And I'm not talking about players now. Are we laying this at Collins's and Stead's feet, or does the board, to a certain extent, take some blame? And the reason I say that, they kept Martin Devaney as that bridge between existing players and your new manager coming in. Now you're looking at it now, and you're looking at, well, has there been a breakdown somewhere in that chain of command, or between players, Devaney, Stead, Collins, board, that it's not connected properly as it was last season? Like you say, we've only really lost Anderson, Luke Thomas went, Bobby Thomas were never ours anyway. Stead were never ours, although I don't even think he's played for Charlton yet, has he? He didn't play last night.
No, he's got injured again, hasn't he? He's got injured.
Is he? Oh, well, good job we didn't sign him then, isn't it? Injury prone. So, there's a lot of things flying about. It's either mentality at players, tactics at manager. When they score, you can see that there is, to a certain extent, like a camaraderie. They all over each other, and they're kissing and cuddling and, touching each other's bums and etc. as you do. But there is definitely a disconnect somewhere, because the professional football, I still come back to the professional footballers on a good wage. I'd love to get. I'd play professional football for £1 a week, but they get paid really good money, and for me, they are not putting it in. So is that up here for them, or is it actually Collins, who, hate to say it, is not the man for the job?
I've just had a text from Charlton. They're offering you 25p if you're still interested in professional.
I'll take it.
Okay, I'll just test them.
25p and what else? Any extras?
There's goal scoring
Be careful
bonus.
now what you say.
It's a goal scoring bonus they've put. He wishes. So yeah, no. It's, I think part of it as well, because they are human beings. I think it was probably a little bit like everything that worked well for us last season was taken away rather. We knew Anderson wasn't going to stay. Duff went. I know Anderson wasn't. Bobby Thomas was never asked, but obviously they all had a really big influence on the very big players when they all went. And then Liam Kitchen went. Don't forget about me, and he went as well. We are left with a group of players where there is no leadership. And I think they're looking at each other. And I think when we get to Oakwell and we play on a Saturday or a Tuesday night at Oakwell, because nobody is igniting that spark on the pitch. Hopefully Connell, now he's back, can do some of that. The crowd is not getting warmed up, so the atmosphere is flat. That then reflects back that atmosphere onto the pitch. Horsham could have lost 16-0, but I bet you there would have still been 3 blocks of lard on top of that away dugout, and they would have still been singing because they backed their club. Win, lose or draw. You know when people say win, lose or draw, I back my club. Well, they don't, because it's quiet as a mouse.
But the thing is, though, look at we've sold out for Lincoln. Some of our away attendances this season have been,
it's been amazing.
Absolutely
amazing,
brilliant. Yeah. And I know the away forms been good, but that's not the reason. You know, we're going in good numbers away. Yeah. And
how far is it to Lincoln? It's not far, is it? About an hour.
An hour and 10, hour and 20. I think.
But only that, isn't it? Jed at Gorbert Tap, 7 o'clock in the morning. They're going on train. What they're going to be like? They'll never even see game. Unbelievable.
But they can't say they're not getting backed, can they? They cannot say they're not getting backed.
No, not at all.
I think I come back to a point I made previously. I think when you go to an away day, that's what it is, an away day. Even Lincoln and the football, the 90 minutes is a bit of a byproduct. You go and grab something to eat, you go and have a couple of drinks, and then the football is either the cherry on the cake or there is no cake, but you've still like a good day out.
Well, yeah, then finish with this one. You've just said about Anderson and Bobby Thomas, blah, blah, blah. Kane talked about wanting to go. Jordan Williams talked about wanting to go. Styles has always talked about wanting to go. Is that then creating a bad atmosphere where other players are looking at them and saying, well, you wanted to go anyway. You didn't even want to bloody stop. So what have you stopped? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And bad apples? I
do think there's a group of players and that have missed the boat in going, and they've seen some of their teammates go, and like I say, either end up in Premier League or like even Hellick's gone. You know, you can go back to Hellick. You know, they're all playing at a higher level, and I think they're walking around like their asses have been slapped because they've missed the boat and they've got to stay for another season. And Collins is not another Duff or another Stendhal or Big Vat or whatever who can really motivate them. And I think that they can't wait to get out. I think a few of them probably think I can't wait to get out, but the performances are not justifying it. And I include Styles with that.
This is the weirdest thing. Playing for a club like Barnsley, you perform well and there's interest, you'll probably get to go because we are that club, aren't we? So you can moan and walk around like you've shit yourself and there's no clean pants in it, or you can go out there with
language.
Sweat on the shirt.
Language is a disgrace.
We've wound him up. He's off.
Sweat on the shirt and desire. And if you outperform everybody on that pitch, when January comes, this board will listen to an offer because that's how we survive as a club. And we haven't even touched on Callad's big news that we're still.
Don't you be touching anybody who has touched somebody else already tonight.
Don't be sticking your pants.
Anyway, it's a disgrace. Going off.
Anyway, you have been listening to the Reds Report. You'll be happy to know, or maybe not so, that we will be back next week. We are proud to be part of the TalkSport Fans Network. Home or away, get behind the lads, but not this weekend because it's a weekend off. We'll see you next week.